This is going to be a multi-part series. In the first video, I'm going to try and extract the key code using a picture. In the second video, I'm going to attempt to recreate the key with just by filing down a blank key. And in the third video, I'm going to attempt to create the key on a CNC machine with a Dremel. This is the Schlage C key. There's 5 tumblers. Each tumbler is a different depth or cut, and each cut has a number code, whether it be 0 through 9. Okay, now the graph paper is going to give me two things. It's going to give me not only a sense of scale, but a sense of perspective, because no picture that I take is going to be the proper perspective. And we're going to go ahead and snap a photo of it. We're going to try and do the best that we can. Another idea would be, if you had a paper cutter, you could cut a size big enough to put in your wallet. If you had a pocket laminator, you could also laminate a small piece of graphing paper that you cut and keep one in your wallet, just in case the opportunity presents itself. Okay, here I have my image loaded into Photoshop. From here we're going to go to the lens correction to try and get a flat image of our key. We're going to try and take out all the distortion and perspective distortion. Basically all I'm going to do is use the straighten tool here, go across one of my lines. I'm going to try and, I'm not going to worry about the key at the moment. I'm going to just try and get the graph paper in the background to look as good as possible. And notice that this green line dips here below the below the grid, so that would indicate a distortion here, which I can correct. And I would probably suggest you can move the alignment grid. When you do move your grid, don't try and center it on any of the lines. You notice the lines have thickness, so stick to one edge or the other, the top of the line or the bottom of the line on the graph paper. That may help you out. Okay, now I'm going to work on the horizontal vertical perspective. So I'm going to be looking at the vertical lines on my graph paper. You can see how this line goes from the right of my grid over to the left of my grid. We can change that all here, see? So I'm going to want it to get it as straight as possible. And then look here over at the left side too. Notice how the left side's off but the right side is real close. That's indicating a horizontal perspective issue. Once you remove the majority of the distortion, and it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, you're going to want to get a sense of scale of your image. Knowing that each square on the graph paper is 1/4 of an inch, or 0.250, or 250 thousandths of an inch, then we can set the pixels to represent 250 pixels per square. So if my image is 6 squares high, I'm going to want my image to have a height of 1500 pixels. This way, when you measure the key in pixels, it will actually represent thousandths of an inch. Okay, now that I have the scale worked out, I'm going to go ahead and just double check everything by opening up my info panel. And you're going to want to go to, let's see, Edit, Preferences, Units and Rulers. Make sure your units are set to pixels. Now I'm going to take the selection tool, and I'm just going to, let me zoom in here. Just going to go from the top of the line to the bottom, or to the top of the next line. And we should have about 250 for a height. If you look over on the right side where it's showing the width and the height of my selection, it's at 253 right now. That's real close. 3 thousandths of an inch is not going to matter on a key. in most cases. Now basically what I want to do is use the selection tool. I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to rotate the key. And I'm going to try and make the key so the bottom of it is close to being straight on our screen. This way we can take measurements on it. Scale has not changed, and do not use lens correction for this feature, otherwise it's going to throw the scale off. So you have to use the rotate. This is the number we're looking at for the height. I'm going to go through the image and I'm going to write down every cut, well, there should be 5 of them, in I'm going to write down the height in pixels, which is actually going to be thousandths of an inch. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little more for this. .247 approximately. These are all approximates. And I probably don't have to be zoomed in that far. So that's 0.247 thousandths of an inch. Remember that. 310. 229. Let's call that 309. .280. We're going to try and figure out the code now. And we're going to do that by Googling key depth and spacing information. First result, key depth and spacing information. You can see I've been here before. We're going to find the type of key that we have, in this case Schlage, and there it is. Schlage depth and spacing information. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to compare the information that we got off that site to the information that we've obtained. If it's correct, it's going to be our key code. 0.247, closest match on the depth is a 0.245, and that's a real close match. We'll call that a 6. The next one, 310, is awful close to both 305 and 320, but it is, however, closer to 305, so we're going to call that a 2. And the last one, 0.280, which is closest to 0.275, and that would be a 4 if that's correct. Okay, now a little something about key codes is they're always read from the shoulder, being right here, forward. So if we are correct, our code is 42726. Now you've seen every step performed in front of you, so you know that it's not fake, but there is a little something that I failed to admit, and that is that on the back of the key there's actually the code. In our case, this won't always be the case, so if you can extract the code that way, that would be ideal. So let's take a look at our key. And the real code is 42726, exactly what we came up with. So there you have it, the key code successfully captured from an image. In addition to the image, you could also find the cut with a caliper, like this one shown. Basically just put it on the cut, and this is the first cut, the first number. It should be a 4. A 4 should be a 275 thousandths of an inch, and there you go, 275 thousandths. And you would just check that, write the number down, check the next one, next one, next one, and the final one, and you have your code that way. Also, they have a little key card decoder that you keep in your wallet. You just put the cut in here on the right side, and you slide it over till it stops. Oh, I'm not in the cut. There we go. And if you can see that, it didn't quite make it into the 5 realm. It's still caught on the 4, and that's the first cut, which actually is a 4. The next one, according to the code, should be a number 2. So we'll run that in, and it fits and stops at the 2. Doesn't quite make it to the 3. If you can see that each level is graduated by 15 thousandths of an inch, which is the code for Schlags. So that's another way you could, if you had access to a key. But I think the picture might be a lot faster and a little less inconspicuous than using tools. But you got to do what you got to do.